Hey, Norcal Carters. It is Monday, June 6th, and tonight we are doing the CRG Chassis 101 episode of our little mini series. A couple weeks ago, we did the Burrell or Burl, depending on where you're from. Tonight, we have my friend Euan Jeffery and Ryan Martin on. And again, the chat lines are open. And you can chat live. You can ask a question about the CRG product. Or if you're new into karting and you just have a general kind of a how-to, where should I set my tire pressure type questions, feel free to chime in. So we'll bring Euan up here in a moment. He will give you an introduction. And some of you are already familiar with Ryan Martin. So a couple of little housekeeping things. Before I forget, we have a couple of events we want to talk about. We have the NCK Road Racing Group, nckroadracing.com. They are going to have a race down at Streets of Willows on July 3rd. So Streets of Willows, July 3rd. They also are going to have an open practice day, which is a little unusual for the road racers, on June 20th. Again, Streets of Willows. All this information can be found on their website or on norcalcarters.com. And at that race in July, they're going to do a swap meet. And they're also going to be doing a barbecue on July 2nd. Again, this is all at Streets of Willows. So it's a little bit outside of the NorCal Carter realm. But NCK Road Racing, they are a sponsor of the show. And they only have 4 events this year. So that's why I'm pushing this one out almost a month in advance, is because they only have 4 races on the schedule this year. So we're going to help promote them. More local to home and more current, this coming weekend, June 11th and 12th, Prairie City will be kicking off another 2-stroke weekend. That's taking place this weekend. And Ryan Martin can probably talk to us about that one. Again, that's this coming weekend, June 11th and 12th, Prairie City 2-stroke weekend. They are also a sponsor of the show. June 18th and 19th, we will be back at Rock Sonoma. So we are going to be at Rock Sonoma on June 18th and 19th. And we will be doing the live stream on YouTube. So you can look up Rock Sonoma on YouTube. And we will be live streaming the races again. So that's been a lot of fun the past 18 months. And we try just to make them better every time. And let's see here. June 24th through the 26th, our buddy Andy will be taking the California Rock Championship up to Pat's Acres. Again, that's June 24th through the 26th. And again, you can find this information at norcalcarters.com. And last but not least, a karting swap meet at Prairie City, June 26th. So put that on your calendar. It's open to everybody. So it's a karting swap meet, June 26th at Prairie City. So it's going to be free to sellers. The only fee is going to be the $5 gate fee you have to pay to the actual park. But Donald is not charging the sellers to sell it. We've been promoting it for a couple of months now. The official page, you can go to norcalcarters.com, click on the events tab, and we have a running discussion. We have a running thread of some of the stuff that's going to be available, or if you're looking for something. So that's going to be our events. So without further ado, I rambled on enough. Let's bring up our special guest tonight. Euan, are you ready?
Yeah. Hi, Jason.
Euan, thank you for joining us tonight.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I've known you for a number of years, but if someone's just tuning in, tell them, who is Euan Jeffery with CRG?
Who's Euan? No, I've worked for the CRG factory for probably the last 12 years. And then obviously before that, I was always involved with the CRG group, let's say. I used to work for Maranello Kart back in the day for around about 8 years. So together, the CRG group, I've been with them for around 20 years now. Around 20 years. So I'm over obviously in the US most of the time now, just helping to build the US market. and get everything moving there. Working closely with Ron White. Obviously, he's one of our major teams, especially on the West Coast up, and he's following up in Norcal. So, and then we've just recently obviously started collaborating with Speed Concepts on the East Coast. So I'm actually in Utah at the moment. We were doing the club race at the weekend, just doing some testing with all the tag stuff. Things seem to be going good. And then afterwards, we've got the Scusa race this week, the Scusa Pro Tour.
So you have a pretty busy calendar going back from the East Coast to the West Coast and Utah.
Sorry, Jason, I lost you then.
Oh, am I breaking up on my end?
No, I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, okay, so you got a pretty busy schedule going from the East Coast to the West Coast, supporting Ron White, Mike Speed.
Yeah, this year, honestly, I've been trying to do as many races as possible and help our teams and other dealers and stuff around. So at the start of the year, I was literally bouncing from coast to coast because I was going from Challenge of the Americas on the left hand on the west side, and I was going straight over to the east to do all the Scusa Winter Series, the rock stuff, and everything. So I've been stretching myself a little bit thin, over the first few months of the year because the calendar was so crazy, and it was the same for everybody and the same for a lot of people that had to do all the races from east to west. But in the end, to be able to try and help everybody as much as possible, you need to stretch it as much as possible and push as hard as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for the introduction. Thank you for joining us tonight. And again, if you're just tuning in, tonight is going to be a CRG frequently answered FAQ, frequently asked questions. So if you have a general CRG question you'd like answered, Euan is the guy to talk to. And let's also bring up Ryan. Hold on for a second, Ryan. We dropped you. Oh, I dropped you.
No, I got disconnected when we started.
You got disconnected.
Oh, dude, it just took a pause.
All right. So you've been on our show a few times now here on NorCal Mondays with NorCal Karters, but give everyone a quick introduction on yourself. Who are you? Who are you representing? Why are you here tonight?
Yeah, so like you said earlier, Ryan Martin. I work with Ron White and I also race with him. We do like the shifter stuff, and then lately we're doing a lot of tag stuff in the Northern California area. So basically, Ron is busy today, so I'm kind of filling in and doing the promotional side of stuff, I guess. And then we'll be at Prairie City this weekend, and then Ron will be in Utah. So team's kind of splitting up this weekend, but it should be a good time.
Nice. So I don't think we really said what was going on in Utah. We just keep saying everyone's in Utah. What's going on in Utah this weekend?
Am I answering?
Who are you asking?
I could do it. No, because it's the Scusa Pro Tour this weekend. It'll be rounds 3 and 4. And we've got obviously a large following going to the Pro Tour this weekend. So also, like Ryan said, Ron's going to be there with a couple of shifter drivers. I think it was Aidan O'Neill and Mike Bash, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So, we'll hopefully get some good results also with the shifters this week.
Very good. Should be exciting. Did I lose you?
No, I've got you.
All right. Can you still hear my mic? Earlier you said it was a little quiet.
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm good.
Okay. Perfect. All right, give me one moment here. I'm gonna look at one. Where's the thread? So Loopy 007. This is the thread right here. If you're listening on YouTube, chat away in the live chat. If you're on Facebook, chat away on the Facebook. It's all in the comment section. So basically, again, if you have a CRG question, you can ask either of these gentlemen. If not, we're just going to kill the time rambling, and then every once in a while, I might bring something up karting related, but most likely it's going to be food related. Like, hey, where's your best place to eat in Utah, Euan?
Actually, honestly, we've not really been out to any restaurants because we've actually got an Airbnb Here, it's about 30 minutes from the track. So to be honest, we've got Tony Tesoro, who's been designated team chef.
So he can Tony throw down a mean meal?
Tony's good in the kitchen.
Tony's good in the kitchen.
Tony does not hold back in the kitchen, and he's even today he's been in the kitchen. He ended up spending half a day in the kitchen cooking the meal for this evening for all the guys that are here. So there's about 10 or 15 people here at the moment. Just people from the team and other people that have come to visit. So
that's kind of neat, though. You have that many guys at the house over there, and that's kind of one of the neat, unique experiences about the race teams. It's like how everyone gathers and gets together, and
I mean, in my opinion, things like that are really, really important because, and Ryan can share this as well, because it's more like apart from, cost-wise, eating together and everything, it's really good team building exercises, especially for race teams, because, you get to know the people that you're working with, and you get to know kind of a little bit more about them personally as well,
Well, and two, like when the Airbnb, like when you're on the road, I always find it makes you feel like you're more at home, kind of like you feel like you're at a home race, you're not going to a hotel, you're going to a house. So like from the driver's standpoint, it always makes you feel like a little more comfortable at the events.
I think it's good, especially when you're in a team atmosphere and you can actually you're working together throughout the day, but you can also spend time with each other, when you get to the downtime and the relaxing in the evening, you can actually, just generally ramble on like what you said and just kind of talk about things away from karting to, bond as a team,
No, exactly. I kind of feel like we did the Airbnb deal at the Phoenix challenge race, and like I know the one day it was raining there, so like we just kind of stayed at the house, hung out, watched some movies, and then like the last night there too, just went out for dinner, had a good time, have some drinks, and really get to know people away from the racetrack.
All right, so let's talk about CRGs. All right, can you guys tell us what chassis packages are available for CRGs, and what's out there, what's available, what's the smallest kart, the shifter kart, kind of all the models and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, I think for this year and last couple of years, we've been trying to streamline the product line quite a bit to be able to make it a lot simpler for everybody. So literally now there's going to be one kart for each class. Like for instance, the mini kart, we're using the Black Mirror chassis. The Black Mirror is like say classic 950 28 build mini kart, and we've been doing really, really well with this. Ron's been pushing it hard, obviously on the West Coast, and then I've been doing a lot on the East Coast with the mini kart with a number of drivers under the Speed Concepts tent. Carson Weinberg, and he's been up there at the front all year, and it's been very, very good. Then afterwards, moving into the tag classes. The tag classes has always been a little bit a question mark for CRG. Here in the US, people have always said, "Oh, there's too many cars, too many this, too many." So, we also took a decision from a business standpoint to be able to help our customers, dealers, across the board, literally to streamline the products all the way. So now the chassis that's available for the tag classes is the KT5, which is actually it's a very similar model to the KT2 from before, but it's all 30 millimeters, but with a 32 mil front hoop. So with that, it makes it very, very, very easy to drive. And the good thing is that with all the different tires and championships that everybody does now, the different weight class in the classes, everything, it's the best kart that we found so far that's good across the board, and it can support pretty much all the tires that we're using in the different classes, between the Levanto, between the MG, between the Vinco, and and other tires that you're using, the Vegas or whatever it's going to be. So the KT5's now been really, really good, and we've had a lot of positive results even up until, and we're only just into June, and we've had a lot of positive results and a lot of good positive things moving forward. Especially with the bigger races, USPKS, the Rock Championships, the SCUSA Championships. We've had some good drivers right up front. We've had a really young kid on the East Coast. His name's Cameron Weinberg. Cameron's actually sitting outside. He's actually sitting outside in the other room playing Mortal Kombat with the guys on the computer. So he's been doing really, really well all year, and he's 14 years old. He's a rookie in the senior tag classes, and he's been at the front literally all the races he's been doing. Every race he's been up there. And that's a very, very positive thing for us because, we like to see kids that, I'm not saying aren't known. Cameron is a known driver, but we like to see kids that aren't, the Austin Garrisons, the Ryan Norbergs, the top end tag drivers. It's good to see some other names up there using the products. We've actually got another driver that you'll definitely know this weekend in Utah. And he's actually under the Nash Motorsports tent. Christian Brooks. He's going to be racing this weekend in Tag Senior. So I think it should be pretty good this week. We've got a strong lineup, and we should be good with that. So I've kind of veered away a little bit from the question there about the products, but going back to the 4-cycles, the 4-cycle kart, we've got the FS4, which is a little bit of a different design. It's a different design in the fact that we've got a 32 mil front hoop, then we have the 28 millimeter crossbars, and we have the long chassis rails that are 30 mil. So that's a kart that's been used over the last probably 2 to 3 years, and we've done a lot of development. And the development for the 4-cycle kart, I did a lot of work together with Marshall Martins. I think people that have been in the sport for a while will know Marshall Martins, obviously, for a lot of the things that he's done in the past, for obviously the stuff he's done with CRG, Rotax, and everything over the years. And Marshall and I, we've been working together a lot with the FS4. And I think we've got to a very good point with the FS4 now, and it's a very, very strong kart with the 4-cycle stuff. So in theory, I'm not sure if our official driver will be out this weekend in Prairie City or not. Ryan
Martin.
Ryan.
For those just tuning in, the Oilers are in the Stanley Cup.
No,
Finals,
sorry, my mic was
Sharks
muted.
fans not acknowledging. So
no, I was just talking about the FS4 kart.
No, sorry, my mic was muted.
Yeah, I was talking about the FS4 kart, and I wasn't sure if our official driver will be racing it at Prairie City this weekend.
I don't think he is. I think he's working with his driver, Alan Morte, this week.
Ah, okay.
So if that's who I think you're talking about.
Nah,
who's our official driver?
It's a good
Do
friend.
I know him?
It's a good friend of ours, Jason Flores.
Yeah.
Never heard of him before.
I really thought he was going to sponsor me, but yeah, there was a hard no on that one.
Well, the other thing is the race at Prairie City this weekend. It's like their 2-cycle weekend, so it's only like the tags, the micro minis, and the shifters. They separate their events because they have a lot of entries there, which is good.
Actually, I was just with Jason today too, and I didn't even ask him about his new kart.
Yeah, where were you guys?
Oh, we have a question.
Honestly, we're at the DMV.
We'll need to check we'll need to check if he's finished building it yet.
Oh, he hasn't even started. He's waiting for his suit to come in.
we never ever received an order, so
that's right. So we actually have a real question here from Dan. Is it normal for the snipers to be trued up every track day? I am tightening my kingpin nut to 30 foot-pounds, yet when I get the cart home and cleaned up, the alignment is always out. Euan, what say you?
Well, there is a way that we actually, when we do the alignment and everything, on the front with the sniper kits and everything. Obviously, when you set your camber on the top of the sniper kit, and when you go to tighten the spindle back up again, we always lift the spindle up, so it's like there's pressure actually on the spindle when you tighten it. So literally, with one hand you pull it up, and the other one, you pull the wrench on the bottom. So pulling the spindle up when you actually tighten it, the spindle should not move, and obviously the sniper kit should still stay the same.
Very cool. I was listening, but I'm like down the rabbit hole of the Kart CRG site. So there you go. I am running a Rock GP 61-year slow noob. Did I get the word right this time?
Yes.
Okay, I called someone a knob last time.
Wait, is that how you spell that word?
I was reprimanded.
Oh.
All right, we have another question. Is there a guide available with instructions on how to tune the chassis? Oh, Jason's on the CRG website.
That's what I was looking for when you guys were talking about the snipers.
No, there is a user manual on the CRG website, and there is a user's manual there that does give you some tips and hints, but obviously it's a very basic outline, and the problem is that's a user's manual that we have to supply to the entire world, so it's very, very difficult to cater for every single class, every single weight, every single tire, every single country in the world in one user's manual. So I always try and suggest that, obviously if somebody's working up there in Norcal and, they want to get information, they can contact Ron White Racing. They can ask a little bit more in detail, and it's a lot easier having a telephone conversation sometimes and actually getting a little bit dialogue and actually finding out exactly what you need, because the users manuals there is users manuals, like I said, but it's a very generic users manual that can cover a lot of different things. So I think if you need more specific information and more detailed information, it's definitely better, obviously, up there in Norcal to contact Ron or even Ryan, who's even here. But just to be able to get a little bit more precise information and how you move forward with it.
All right. Hey, Ashley, we're going to go back a bit to this next question. Have one of you tested a Heron chassis in a KA100 Senior? If yes, how did it go?
I'm going to steal the limelight, right? No, we tested it. Probably a couple of years ago already. It was good. It was very, very good. But obviously, the way we've been moving forward with the company over here in the US, CRG NORDAM, which we use to do all the distribution in the US, which is obviously a factory-owned company. Obviously, for the company moving forward and trying to move forward in the correct way, we've decided to streamline, obviously, the product lines, like what I was saying before. So, it is good to use in the K100 Senior, but now moving forward, obviously, even for the K100 Senior, we're going to be pushing forward with the KT5.
So, anytime someone says CRG Heron, the first thing I think of is a yellow chassis from like 1997. And Darren Elliott. So, out of my own curiosity, is it the same frame design, or is it just the namesake?
The Heron was, there was a few similar things with the Heron. The actual body of the kart itself that came down, and it was obviously one piece that came from the top of the yokes and came down, and it was pretty much a U shape. It's a very similar design in that respect, but it was a little bit different. It was quite a bit different compared to the original Herons that were out. The original Herons, they were very particular, and everybody was a bit kind of wow. You don't really kind of see anything like that anymore. But I think we tried to bring the Heron back a little bit, and it's just difficult because a lot of people nowadays want to have a lot more conventional kind of theories with the karts, and you can see the picture on the screen now. So the original Heron itself was you'd be struggling probably to pull up a picture of the original Heron, Jason, but it was a lot more sharp. The bends at the back were a lot sharper, and it was a proper U shape. But we changed it a little bit round, and I still think the Heron was a very, very good car. But it was just one of these things. It's very difficult to market something so different into the karting world because it's very difficult to get people to do something. It's very, very, very different.
I should have paid attention to see if I'm like screen sharing everything I'm doing right now.
You are.
I am.
All right, we have more questions though, so we'll go there. What's the theory behind or the advantage of the CRG hub bolt pattern?
The CRG bolt pattern. The CRG bolt pattern is something very particular because it's something CRG has literally been using for the last 30 years, 40 years. I think from a performance side, it is probably a little bit more positive on the front. I think it's more something also from a marketing standpoint to even distinguish something from the CRG brand, because nowadays that obviously the CRG brand, everybody knows the CRG wheel. It goes with that hub, and because it's the CRG bolt pattern, I think it's more something that distinguishes the actual CRG part. On a performance side, like I said, I think the performance side is probably, rather than a conventional, like obviously bolt pattern, I think it would be a little bit more positive in the front grip, let's say.
All right, thank you. Ryan, you might be able to answer this one. Blue tire pressure at PC.
Okay.
Ryan, make sure you answer correctly because I'm going to be testing you on this.
Well, here's the thing,
27
right?
pounds.
We planned this.
Well, here's the thing. So, like Prairie City, like it's very temperature sensitive there, right? I mean, when we were there a month ago. It wasn't too hot, but I'm pretty sure we were sending our tag. We had a tag master guy. His name was Dan Jones. I think I'm pretty sure he won the main event. I want to say we're sending him out somewhere around 12 psi cold. But honestly, like when it comes to tire pressures, like what I like to do when I go to a track is I'll start at like a standard. So like whether, for example, like my shifter with the tire pressure, let's say I start at 10 psi, right? And I'll go drive. And it's like, okay, if you do 5 laps and then you go slower, well, then you know you're too high on your pressure. So then come in, drop it, let's say half a pound or a pound, and then go back out. And just keep doing that until you get to the point where it like comes in towards the end of your run. But I want to say probably around 12 psi for that blue pressure. I mean, we don't really run it a lot. I mean, we're still learning the tire where we live because a lot of our stuff is Levanto stuff. So that's kind of what I would say, probably around 12. I know if you and
it's quite funny though, because it like the tire pressure thing is always like the $1 million question, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody said, what tire pressure should they on? And it's a really, really difficult question to answer because, you know, there's so many variables, especially for the tire pressures. It's so difficult to understand. It's like what Ryan was saying with the temperature and everything, you know. You know, you could go on a cold winter day and you would have to run it maybe 18 psi. You know, you come back in the summertime and you're running it maybe 10, 11. You know, it's really, really difficult. And it's one of these things that I think you just need to be able to try and, with a little bit of experience, try and read the situations and read the temperatures and kind of read the track condition at that moment in time when you need to decide the tire pressure, you know.
So to follow up on that, because we are also targeting a lot of newer karters with this show as well. So let's say they bought a used CRG on Craigslist or extrakartparts.com, which is me.
Yeah.
And I happen to just throw some MG Blues on that cart because that's what I had. Where is a generic baseline where you could say, without getting like too technical, because as you already said, you don't know how the track conditions are going to be. But I call you up and, hey, Euan, I just bought this cart from extrakartparts.com. It has MG Blues on it. Can you just give me a baseline starting point? What number would you throw out?
With a blue tire, you'd probably say, like what Ryan said, maybe 12 to 14 psi or something.
12 to
And
14. Yep.
I think that's more or less your starting points, and then afterwards you would sort of go forward from there, depending on, one of the important things, especially for new people getting into the sport, is not so much the cold pressure. Obviously, the pressure, cold and hot, is important, but you need to always check the hot pressures to see more for the balance on the stagger on the tires actually around when you're doing the pressures, because obviously when you go out and if you set them at 14 psi and you go out and it's a track predominantly with left-hand corners, you know that you're going to be putting a lot more load on the right hand side, because obviously you've got the tires that are working a lot more on the outside and transferring the weight onto the outside of the car. So obviously to compensate that, you'll see that obviously with your tire pressures hot when you measure them when you stop, and that's when the stagger comes into it, obviously lowering the tires to be able to sort of compensate for the ideally you're probably the hot pressure you're going up maximum 2 psi, give or take, and then afterwards obviously you need to stagger them accordingly, to try and get them to come in all 4 even tires.
And then to wrap up the tire pressure question, and then hopefully we'll move on with some other chassis stuff. What is your time frame window when the cart comes off the track? How fast are you trying to check those tire pressures, and how critical is it?
As soon as possible. Literally,
are we talking 5 minutes, or are we talking 10 seconds?
No. It would need to be seconds rather than minutes, because obviously the hot pressure, as soon as you stop, the hot pressure starts to, and the temperature starts to decrease in the tire, and it's always really, really important that's why you see at the track sometimes people running, jumping like crazy, like hurdlers and Olympic gold kind of runners, trying to get to the go-kart to measure the tire pressure. But it's the most important point to measure the tires, because obviously it's so important to understand the hot pressure, but obviously the longer you wait, the less precise the reading is going to be.
Well, and to add to that too, from the driver's standpoint, like on the in lap, if you want to do like a tire pressure check, don't drive like slow in the in lap. Drive it in hard like you're doing a normal lap, and then peel off into the pits.
Yep, that's a good point. My favorite is when you see people online like super tweaking over tire pressure. Okay, well, just get out there and drive. Like, we just gave you a starting point. Go out and drive, but then they don't even have their own air gauge. Hey, can I borrow your air gauge? Like, I need to be within a quarter of a pound, but can I borrow your air gauge?
But once you mechanic and once you do a lot of tuning on carts for many, many years, like you become attached to your air gauge. It becomes a personal kind of thing. It's like your personal kind of honey. You can't get away from it, because the tire pressure thing is important. Like across the board with kart racing, maybe the wet, the dry, anything, but the tire pressure gauge, especially when you've been working in kart racing for a long time, it becomes kind of a bit of a sentimental tool in your toolbox, and it's one of these things that you just want to. Even when you start checking tire pressures, you're going around, and obviously, this is what I've always done with the years that I've done in kart racing. Obviously, like when I'd set the tire pressures when they're cold, you would never just set the tire pressures once in each tire and that's it, because there's always a variance with even the ambient temperature and everything, obviously going up and down. You would always go around, and depending on the heat, obviously you could even do 3 laps around the kart checking the tire pressures to make sure they're precise.
All right, we have one more tire pressure, then we'll do the Heron question. How about that, Ashley?
Okay.
All right. So Euan, I want you to answer this 2 different ways. I want you to answer this question as the guy I'm talking to now that has all your international experience. And I want you to answer this next question as the guy walking up to a local kart club and a guy just put his first kart on the track for the first time. So how fine or precise must tire pressures be?
Okay, you want this one? You want with all my experience?
I want with all your experience at the international level. how precise must it be? Then I want you kind of step backwards and go, but if this is your first kart, you've never been on the track, this is your window.
And I think this is a very good point, because I think it depends on the level of karting that you're actually doing. And for instance, you say, how fine or precise must the tire pressure be? Over in Europe, for instance, we only really work in bar. We don't actually work in PSI. And I think everybody just works over in bar in Europe, because they can get smaller increments with the tire pressure changes. So obviously you're actually going up in 0.02s. So as far as how precise must the pressures be, we try and get it down to obviously 0.02 bar, possibly difference between left and right tires. Like different sides. So it does depend on what level you're at. It does depend on what races you're going to, what tires you're using, because like obviously if we were back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when we used to use the Bridgestone special tires, the tire pressure was the most important thing about that tire, and you had to be so precise, because if you weren't precise, literally you made a mistake with the pressures, or they were a little bit too high, the tire was finished within laps. Literally within laps, they were gone. So it really depends. If you're using it on a harder tire, I would say the harder tire is still very, very important. But obviously, even if you make a mistake with the tire pressure, you're not going to finish the tire, and you're not going to burn the tire out. And I think that's why a lot of even the club level racers and everything, obviously when they're doing the racing, they're using a slightly harder compound rather than a softer compound, because obviously it's not practical for people if they have to go and spend a lot of money on soft tires and they're finishing every time they go on track. But in the end, how fine and precise must the tire pressure be? For me, it's one of the most important things in the car, and it should be as precise as possible.
Perfect. And for those that don't understand bar is approximately 14.5 psi. So 1 bar equals 14.5 psi.
And then,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, it's okay.
All right, we had another question. Based on your experience, what will be the best engine for a 2021 Heron?
What would be the best engine? It really, really depends, because obviously that's one of these things that it depends where you are in the country, really, because obviously I'm not saying there's one motor package that is better than another. We've always obviously used up there in Norcal. It's very, very, very rock predominant, and there is mostly the rock categories. Obviously, then you go to the East Coast, and there's a lot more. I'm not saying a lot more, but there's a lot more X30. You go up some of the areas now where there's a bit more Rotax as well. But it really depends on what level of karting you want to race at. I think, if you want to just not even race, and you just want to test and go around and everything, if you just want to practice every weekend without even touching your motor and everything, I think probably a Rotax motor might even be the best solution, because it's a trouble-free motor that you can just put on the go-kart and literally, I'm not saying not touch it, but you need to, it's very low maintenance. That's probably the correct terminology.
So that particular model, the 2021 Heron, is really suited for your tag category, your 125 tag categories.
Yeah, the Heron is a tag kart, yes.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if that's what our web info. AR. I'm not sure if that's exactly what they were asking, but I think you answered that question. I always love the tire pressure question. Like, I could literally talk about it for an hour, but
no, but it is one of these things that it's a complicated discussion, because it's one of these things in kart racing that so many people, it's probably, I say in kart racing, in motorsport in general, and probably in all the different categories across the board, but it's just one of these things that are very, very complicated, and it really depends how deep you want to go into it, you know.
Yeah. Well, it is the contact patch between the cart and the track.
I do have a question. So what are some of your personal favorite features of a CRG compared to another chassis brand? So like when you're selling a CRG, what are some things that you're like, oh, and it has this and this? Like what are some of your favorite features?
I think one of the biggest features that, you know, obviously I'm always going to be a bit biased because I worked for CRG and I've worked for CRG for so many years, so I'm always going to be a little bit biased, but I'm very, very proud to say the quality. You know, the quality of the car and the quality of the actual manufacturing itself. I'd say that's probably one of the things that I'm most proud of working for CRG. Even down to the welding on the frames, and I've seen, obviously working in the factory, I've seen all the different processes, and I've been there when all the different processes have been done through the time that I've been there. And you know, the welding part and everything is probably one of the most important parts of the car, because if you're quite into, you know, even fabrication stuff, and you know what you're looking at when you see a weld, when you look at the karts and see a weld that's very, very, very nice, it gives you satisfaction when you have to say, I'm proud for working for CRG. You know, it's good.
I did. So there are some videos on the CRG Facebook page that I have seen, and I was like, dang, this factory is pretty cool. Like you don't really think of the technical stuff, like seeing a nice weld on a go-kart, until you see sort of behind the scenes of it, and you're like, wow, like a lot really went into making this thing that's like inches
video
off the ground.
that video, the CRG factory tour one, the one that you probably looked at, that was actually one of the coolest videos that we've ever done. I think it was like really, really cool, because it gives you a proper insight into the actual factory, and literally
so
from inside out, you know.
Is this it?
Yeah, this is it.
What? So this is where they're made. Oh, actually, Euan, this is where you're supposed to be telling us what this is.
You're going a little bit fast, to be honest. I can't speak that fast.
Oh.
Well, actually, I'm actually surprised why there's no sound on it.
But so you've been there, right?
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, so this is just like the main production area. So that's all the shipping and packing area, and then afterwards, this is the area where all the machining is done, with all the CNC milling machines, the lathes, and everything. So all the parts and everything are machined and done there. And then afterwards, I think the video moves. Yeah, these are all the hand welding booths. Like if it was back a little bit. So you had all the hand welding booths, and then we've actually got two robot welders here. So you've got the two robot welders that I've got the double jigs on them. So literally, they've got simultaneous jigs. So you see it spinning around there. So we can literally double up the amount of volume that we can do. So with the robot welders, we could probably do about 16 carts per day, like the actual frames, I mean. So
1.6 or 6.0?
1.6.
1.6, okay.
Yeah. So, you know, and that's going from morning till night. But predominantly, you know, we do still use a lot of hand welding and a lot of robot welding, because now obviously with the rental car situation as well, we're actually, you know, we've increased the volume of business actually in the company with the rental cars also, which has been a big part of my job over the last kind of 2 years. Yeah, 2 years as well. Heading up the commercial department also for the rental cars. But so you can see the product line here. Yeah, so this is just all the mounted line. So the production line here for the rental carts, I think they were able to fit nearly, I think all including the electric part, I think it was not far off 20 carts on the production line at one time.
Electric carts?
Yeah, the rental carts, we do electric carts and gas carts.
Okay.
So we've got the two options because obviously all the rules that are going on in California and the rule changes and everything, you know, I think all the companies are preparing themselves for the electric cars. Obviously, we're only doing electrical rental carts at the moment. We've not really done anything with the racing, but we've started moving forward with the electric side over the last few years, and we've been working closely with a German company called Linde. I'm not sure if anybody knows who they are. It's a German forklift company, and they're very, very experienced in the electric forklift sector. And they actually have a section in their company called the e-motion department, and the e-motion department is literally like an R&D department for Linde. So the e-motion, they did all the projection and the design work and everything for the whole electrical package that goes onto our electric rental car. So it's been good because we've got some really strong partners for the electric cars.
All right,
And then obviously we still have all the
do have
conventional
some
gas cars.
questions. Okay.
Sorry, I'm over here watching videos now.
Oh,
Thanks,
I don't know
Ashley.
where we left off. So we'll start here and then I'll kind of go back while they're reading. Do you agree that a 2018 CRG cart is still just as competitive as any other cart, assuming it's set up correctly?
In our local 100cc Masters.
Okay. Yes and no. That's yes and no, because that's also the $1 million question. A cart from 2018, you know, bearing in mind it's a 4-year-old cart, you need to really, really see how much work the cart's done. Because if the cart's been run into the ground, and for instance, the bottom's all flat and everything's like, you know, yeah, it's been really worked hard, I think it would be better saying it would be better getting a more up-to-date car, let's say.
So, you know, at one of the episodes a month ago. Go ahead.
But if it's a fresh cart and a fresh cart, it really depends on the evolution. I think from our products, I think at this moment in time, the newer products that we've actually put into the market now, like obviously the KT5 that we're using for the tag classes, I think we've definitely made a very, very big improvement since 2018 and 2019 for the tag carts. So, you know, there's two different kind of things there, but for sure, for me at this moment in time, I'm very, very confident to say that if you got one of the new CRG carts, it would definitely be better than the 2018 one.
That's always a hard question because it also depends on where you're racing. Is Johnny Cope? Remember, Ashley, we were talking about it like a month ago, and I could not remember the guy's name, and I raced against him all the time. His name's Johnny Cope, and he does a lot of volunteer time running flags and working corners and stuff. But him and I raced against each other in the Briggs class out here, and I showed up in my brand new TV cart, like beautiful green, new graphics. Like, yeah, this thing's going to be fast. And I look over, and then Johnny's out there. This cart had to be like a 1968 CRG cart. I'm pretty sure he had like lag bolts going through the spindles and everything. Like, where did you find this thing? And I mean, the bodywork was beat up. Like, you don't want to race this guy. It's like he's gonna rub you because he doesn't care, right? And I'm looking at this thing, and at the end of the weekend, he was fast. And I remember walking up to him at the end of the race, and it's like, dude, you're flying out there. And he just goes, yeah, I bet you when you looked at this piece of shit, you didn't think it'd be so fast. And I just started laughing. It's like, yeah, honestly, I didn't. Because, you know, let's talk about the new KT5 and let's talk about CRG and the tag stuff. It's no.
Sorry,
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm just laughing because I saw the question that was after
Oh, you
the,
started.
the question that was after the 2018 car.
Okay. Okay, so we have this question, and then one that we did miss. Keith Phillip had a question about a Tony kart. So Keith, I'm going to give you a little insider information. We're going to have an OTK show next month.
Can I be in that one as well?
Yeah, you have to go like this.
So come back for the OTK show. Let's go back. We're talking about CRG's.
No, but that's a great question though. We definitely are plugging the OTK show down the road, but let's let Euan answer that one as well.
Okay.
And also Ryan, because I think that's a very important question just in general. Like he's a half a second off the leaders. So it's like, where does he find that half a second?
My opinion at this moment in time is when we're talking about like kids kart.
Tony Kart rookie. Is that a kid kart or a cadet?
Cadet.
Oh, is that Rookie Briggs? Maybe he's referring to. That might be Rookie Briggs.
Keith,
I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% sure because I'm not too clued up on the Tony Kart part.
I'm almost thinking maybe he's talking about the Rookie Briggs class, so like a cadet. But I think the question is still, regardless of the Tony Kart stuff, I think it's still a valid question. It's like what are the factors that affect more than others? So we already talked about tire pressure, alignment, like. Speak to alignment, Euan. I mean, it's like when CRG came out with that sniper system, that was so cool. But speak to alignment and how it translates into lap times.
Well, I think especially for the kids karts and mini karts, let's say, I think even the alignment situation and everything is very, very important because obviously the more you go down on the different categories, and obviously the categories that have got less horsepower, especially like the mini karts and the kids karts and everything, things like the alignment become even more important, because obviously it's the classic thing when you say, the alignment's out is going to be eating the power. There are certain things that do affect, let's say, the power coming out of the corner with a mini kart, because obviously with the little power that is there, you need the kart to be able to be so free off the corners and come out, So, the important thing is that you don't have your wheels closed in front and everything. Normally, especially with the minis, you'd be running, like for instance, the toe out, you would be running, from 0 to 2 millimeters per side open, let's say, with the toe. It's difficult to say, because it's one of the classic $1 million questions. It's one of these things, if you can't see it, it's difficult to give you a bit of advice for that one, because obviously you don't know also what the driver's doing as well, and that's the biggest thing, especially with the kids, because I'd say with the mini karts and kids karts, the material is important, don't get me wrong, but one of the most important things to work with is the kid, because it's at the point in their time that they need to learn and they need to grow and they need to be taught things to be able to get better, So I think one of the most important things with the kids karts and the mini karts is it's actually working with the drivers rather than working with the drivers rather than losing your mind trying to work with the equipment and turn things upside down and maybe go backwards rather than forwards,
Yeah, and there's a lot to it too. I think you actually have a disadvantage with questions like that, because when you roll into a team, you guys have chassis tables, you have all of this equipment that most club guys don't have to check if the frame's twisted, if it's bent.
Yeah, for
what
sure.
the alignment is.
For sure. Because to be honest, like I said, and that's why you need people like Ron White Racing on the West Coast there in Norcal. That's why you need people like Ron White Racing to be able to support these customers and these people that are out there racing, because it's the people like Ron and Ryan, obviously, that can actually bring their experience to the table and possibly look at the cart within 2 seconds. They say, your chassis is bent, you know. So it's really, really important to be able to give people the opportunity of meeting like the Ron Whites and getting the experience from them, because obviously Ron's got a race shop up there in North California that is, you know, exquisite. He has everything, and he can do everything from motors to chassis to tables, and you know, that's the kind of thing there that it's really, really important, because to the naked eye, you just look at the go-kart and you think, it looks okay, it's black, looks fine. I cleaned it and it's good to go. But the problem you have is that for people that like us that have been in the sport for a long, long time, we can look at a go-kart, and if it's really, really bent, you can see it with like straight away.
Yeah.
So,
And that's the other thing. Starting karting in Norcal, I mean, I was always around Mike Speed. I mean, they started in Northern California as well. And you'd see some of the stuff Mike would do with karts. Like you scratch your heads like, dude, why are you doing this? Like, it's a brand new kart.
I should go and get me sitting outside.
You should. But as a brand new kart, why are you doing this, Mike? You're kind of questioning why he's checking a brand new kart. And then you look at the success someone like Mike has had over the years. Like, I don't know how much stuff alignment wise I learned from Mike Speed just watching, but it was incredible how much attention to detail before that kart ever hit the track that he spent building the kart, checking it, knowing where all the numbers were, and then they would go out and they would do their testing.
No, 100%, because the problem is you can't even do proper testing until you put the kart on the track in the correct manner.
Yeah.
So
a lot of people don't realize you could tow your kart perfect like this.
No, 100%. Like if you get the wheels that go out on the track and you're
perfect.
If you go out and it's like that, it's not really ideal, because you can't even do testing, you can't even test properly,
Yeah.
All right, just quickly checking.
Yeah.
Ryan Martin, do you need a tissue?
Oh my God.
That's why
I wanted to answer a question. I wanted to answer a question someone asked here.
That's why
I think it was Dan. He asked. What
happened to the Oilers?
All right, Ryan, go ahead.
I wanted to answer
overtime.
question. Yes. So Dan asked if there's a CRG dealer in Sacramento.
Ryan must be upset because that's why he's not being talking.
My whole world just ended. Like my week is ruined now.
When he dropped, I was all, "What's the score?"
Well, my internet's not been the best day. But anyways, to answer this guy's Dan's question, I don't think there's a Sacramento dealer up there right now. We're in American Canyon, so we're about an hour south of you, and we're gonna start showing up more at your guys' races, like the Prairie City 2-cycle weekends. Maybe, who knows, some 4-stroke stuff down the road, or the KPX. So there isn't anything yet, but we're close, and we're starting to show up there more. So if you need any CRG stuff, you can definitely give us a call or come talk to us.
Ron White Racing.
At Ron White
Racing. If you don't know
Racing,
where American Canyon is, it's where Highway 12 goes behind the hill before you get to Napa.
Yes.
All right. Our friend Steve Pagos said, "I'm late to the call, but axles."
Steve Pagos?
Can we quickly cover axles? And it's for
Ryan,
CRG.
So
why is Steve asking this? He sees us all the time. This is funny.
Poor Euan's looking at this. He's going, Steve who? What's he race? Like, okay, so Euan, Steve Pagos is running a Rock Shifter Limited on a CRG chassis. He's on one of your products. But
I believe he's on a KT5. I believe he's on KT5 right now.
And he primarily runs at Sonoma. So what axle should he be on? T2, T4, T7, T6? Or is that all outdated nomenclature?
Well, if I called up Jason Flores and asked him, he would probably say T6.
S20.
T6 or S20.
Jason would just put a piece of paper through there, like a cardboard tube, with some hubs on it.
It would be an S20. Or no, S25, right? Because the S20 would just bend.
Sorry, Jason.
He doesn't even listen to my show. He always tells me how I should run it, and he never listens. So I hope he texts me in about 2 minutes.
Axle, and then we have another question that we got to get to.
Okay, the axle wise, I think especially for the shifter stuff, I think you're always going on the harder side. Obviously, very, very rarely we use a soft axle with a shifter. Very, very rarely. You end up just losing the traction with the soft axle, and 99% of the time we would be running like an M20, a long M20, depending on the grip levels of the track, possibly even going up to 1,060 millimeters. If not, to get a little bit more grip again, you could not move up and go on a T2, which is slightly harder. So, and afterwards, for extreme cases, we also have a T5 as well, which is even harder than the T2. But normally, the basic axles that we would use with the shifter karts, you're talking, M20, T2, obviously going longer in the length if you want a little bit more grip again.
I was gonna say,
what's your favorite axle? What's your favorite axle, Ryan?
For me, it's Sonoma. I use Uraka like a 1055 M20. That's my go-to. But I was gonna say, like at the end of the year, like when we have like a Rock Fest race where there's 120 go-karts on track, then usually you'll go to like a standard M20 just because the track has so much more grip. So, but that's usually where I end up.
Okay, next one.
Hey, Steve, when in doubt, try it. It only
Thoughts
takes
on
7 minutes to change an
stiffness
axle.
and seat strut setup on CRG in general.
Okay, so that's from Sherry. So we probably need some more clarification on either tire and also engine package.
Yeah. And then, so that's going to be, actually, we have, maybe Euan can answer this one. Are supply chains issues in play for chassis, parts, and engines much for CRGs?
I'm surprised I've not gone bald yet after pulling all my hair out. No, it's been very, very difficult. Like very, very, very difficult. Luckily, we've been trying to kind of adjust to the situations because it's the same situation all over the world at the moment, and it's really, really difficult to even sometimes get materials, raw materials, and everything along the way. That's why there's been a lot of delays, even in the karting industry, not only from us, not only from other manufacturers, but like in general, to try and get products, because it's very, very difficult at the moment, even through the supply chain issues. Even with the rental carts. The rental carts is probably one of the things that's very difficult, because I think it was September, October last year, we received a communication from Honda, and they told us that they're not going to be able to supply any motors until May of 2022. So bear in mind, this was in October. So the problem you have is that they're just starting now to actually get motors through to us and start to make deliveries with the back orders that we have, because obviously with the rental work thing, we're going through thousands of Honda motors a year, and we're not the only company, that we're wrong, but the problem is that it's kind of ruined our plans, because we had such a big stock in house. We've ended up just having to eat through the stock to be able to use it with the supply and demand. It's really, really difficult, the situation in general for a lot of people, not only obviously in the karting industry, but across the globe.
Okay, so Sherry commented back.
You know what? I met Sherry at the last rock race. And
I did too,
I'm
actually.
reading the name. Yeah, I'm reading her name,
Yeah.
and then it's like, wait, I know that name. I met her at the last rock race. That was her first event.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This was the more detail to the thoughts on seat stiffness and seat strut setup.
So she's racing Euan, so you have an understanding. She races at Sonoma, KA100 Masters.
K100
That was
Masters.
I think that was like her first race too, so she's still pretty new, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I'd say probably K Masters.
And then her karts in 2018. Where was it?
Yeah, I think the general setup should be reasonably the same, though. Normally, we'd still be using the M20 axles. With the K100 classes, possibly a shorter axle, so down to even a 1 meter axle, because obviously it lets it just be a little bit freer and it keeps the RPM in the motor up coming out of the corners. As far as the actual kart setup itself goes with the Lamanto tire, we normally use we actually use the tillet seats in the racing instances, so it would normally be like a softer version of a tillet seat. With no seat struts, obviously.
All right.
He's MIA.
Yeah, that was
He's
it.
gone.
The K Masters Levanto tire. Okay, yeah.
Jason, you're wearing your pajamas.
What's that?
You're wearing your pajamas.
No, I'm
Pajamas.
wearing my CRG shirt.
No, I was looking at one.
Yeah, but
You're like one of
Okay.
He's like one of these
So
guys that works
let's
in the
do-
weather forecast with a tie and then the underpants on underneath. Yeah.
These are not pajamas. These are comfortable soft pants.
Okay.
I forgot last week or the week before. I forgot I was wearing my boxers. That's like I'm running.
Okay, so let's do final thoughts. We'll start with
We're doing a
Ryan
good show. You can't cut us
since he
off.
wants to go cry, and then
No, I'm
Euan,
fine. I'm fine.
and then Jason.
Okay, but before you cut us off, Ashley, do we answer the rib tech question?
Rib Tech.
Yeah. Dan on the Heron. Are the rib tech seats old tech for karts now? They look cool, but don't see many at the track.
Right?
I mean, I don't even know. I've never even seen a Riptech seat before. So, I mean, we run like the Tillet stuff with us. And then we have a few customers that are bigger, or like James Monaco, who's like, I think he's paralyzed from the waist down. And they use like I believe it's like an NEK seat. I think Jason Berry would know what I'm talking about. Is that right? The NEK seat?
I believe he's on the NEK. Yeah.
But yeah, usually we kind of use the Tillet seats. So, didn't really answer the question, but.
Are you familiar with the rib tech at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, you have to be, right? Out of Texas.
Yeah, I know Robbie quite well, obviously Robbie Mott. I know Robbie quite well, and I know what the seats are, but honestly, I've never really used the seat, and I've never really tried it, so I can't really pass comment on performance or anything for the RibTech seat.
So without singling out RibTech, what about a hard CRG seat versus a soft CRG seat? How would you say that affects the chassis? And go with tag, because we have a strong tag class tonight, and then go with ship.
We would very rarely use a really, really hard seat.
Okay.
In the end, performance-wise, when you're getting to the level where you want to get a little bit more grip, obviously coming through the corners, but have the kart still being free off, we would normally be using the softer seats, let's say. Obviously, we normally, across the board, normally everybody uses the Tillet seats, but there are different manufacturers out there that you can use. There's no rule to say you can't. A lot of it comes down to personal preference also. And then afterwards, when we want to free the kart up a little bit, when the grip level starts to increase, we would normally start to go a little bit stiffer and a little bit stiffer, just to keep the kart free and without it banging up coming off the corners.
Free is fast.
Free is
All
always
right,
fast.
guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for teaching us about the CRG chassis. Ryan, we'll go ahead and start with you. Final thoughts. Where are you going to be? Shout outs, anything like that?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on the show as always. It's a blast always hanging out with you guys, and it's always a good time with Euan. I'll be at Prairie City this week for the 2-stroke weekend. I'll be there from Friday to Sunday. So any of you guys out there, the CRG stuff or any questions, don't hesitate to come and ask. We're pretty much front row, so it's easy to find us. Big 48 tent with Ron White on the side. So yeah.
Tell him Norcal Carter sent you.
I will.
Ryan,
before tell him that.
Before you take off, and Ron said you're the official spokesperson for RWR, Ron White Racing.
Okay.
How are you going to answer this question? Any upgrades or discounts for 2022 if we move up in the future from our 2018? What say you, Ryan Martin?
You could definitely talk to Ron. He could probably definitely help you sell the product and find a new home for it. You know, we're always looking for good used equipment to rotate. So he could definitely help you with that. And, you know, that could always work towards a newer go-kart or something like that. A good time to buy go-karts if you're looking for something that's new or maybe one race old is end of the year, like November, December, right after that Vegas race, like the Supernats or Rock Vegas. Usually a lot of people will use a go-kart for a race and then sell it. So if you're looking for something that might be a little cheaper, but still a really nice piece of equipment, you could do that.
Very nice. That was nicely answered.
So yeah, that would be my advice on that deal.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Again, tell Ron Norcal Carter sent you. And we'll see you soon, Ryan.
All right. See you guys soon. Thank you.
All right. Euan, go ahead and final thoughts, shout outs, anything you would like to.
I can't believe you just cut Ryan off. I was about to give him a job. I needed a sales rep for the rental carts. it was quite impressive.
Oh, I'll bring him back on. Ryan, put your tie back on.
Yeah, what the heck, Ashley? You know,
I was going to say you cut him off. I was going to give you a sales rep job for the rental carts.
You know, Euan has given me the 2 biggest compliments I've ever gotten go-karting, and that was the second one. Thank you, Euan.
There you go.
Ashley's pretty good at keeping us on track. Otherwise, we would have 4-hour podcasts.
Mm-hmm. The one show I was not here, it was 4 hours.
Yeah, Jason told me it was 3.5 hours, this one.
I know. And he still came on.
All right, Euan, final thoughts. Again, you can shout out your team in Utah.
No, thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate spending the time with Ryan, Jason, Ashley as well. And it was good to answer some questions, and hopefully I was of help to some of the guys out there. I did actually see our web info from Houston. So if you're ever in Houston, because obviously the CRG NORDAM company based in Houston is actually based in North Houston in Conroe. You know, if anybody ever needs any information, they can contact me directly as well. If anybody needs any info. But, you know, if not, you know, we've got some good teams, good people, good dealers across the, you know, West Coast to East Coast and everything. And even if anybody's in Utah this weekend, they're more than welcome to stop by the Speed Concepts tent. I'll be in there working away. And if anybody's got any questions, they can ask away.
So real quickly, Euan, clarify what is CRG NORDAM?
CRG NORDAM it's a factory owned, obviously I say factory owned, CRG or the CRG, the factory over in Italy. They are actually the owners of the company CRG NORDAM, who cover all the distribution in pretty much in North America, apart from Canada, because we work closely with Alex Tagliani.
Perfect.
Good to know.
So
all right, thank you, Euan. Good luck this
thank you
weekend.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Euan.
you. It should be good.
You can stay online in the chat room.
I'm gonna have to go because I've got people waiting on me outside as well. So.
Oh yeah, you have to go play Mortal Kombat.
That's
right.
No,
I don't do the Mortal Kombat thing. We were just actually going to have a beer because I've got half the karting paddock actually sitting outside in the courtyard outside between Mike Speed, Ricky Luther, everybody's out there. So
give Mike and Ricky a hug for me.
I will do.
All right. Thanks, Euan.
Thanks, Euan.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Bye. All right. NorCal. Okay, so we have 3 shows coming up that we are doing call outs for. We got a junior show coming up. So if you're a junior and you want to be on our next show, send us a message, Instagram, Facebook. We have our Kart Dad show. If you race with your child, or if you're a kart dad, anything like that, hit us up. We want you on our Father's Day show. And then we're also going to be doing our girl driver show as well. So if you're a girl driver, again, hit us up, DM, Instagram, Facebook. If you want to come on my show to talk about karting, let's do it. Peace, NorCal.
All right, and that's a wrap. I want to thank Ryan Martin and Euan Jeffery. Ryan Martin representing Ron White Racing, and Euan Jeffery representing Factory CRG. And hopefully that was a productive and informational session for you. Join us in a couple of weeks when we do the OTK show. And then just a quick recap of the events we talked about. NCK Road Racing, July 3rd, they're going to Streets of Willows. They're doing a barbecue. They're doing a swap meet. So July 2nd and 3rd down at Streets of Willows down in Rosamond. And then we have June 11th and 12th, Prairie City, two-stroke weekend. I saw my buddy Henry Damus today. He was pulling into the track, so I'm sure he's going to go get some laps for that two-stroke weekend coming up. And let's see, June 18th and 19th, Rock Sonoma. Once again, we will be doing the live stream on YouTube with Rock Sonoma. And let's see here, June 24th through the 26th, California Rock Championship. They are heading to Pat's Acres. Registration is open, so you can check that out. Now, all of these events you can find on norcalkarters.com. Click on the events tab, and it'll take you to the to their official page. And the reason I'm only mentioning a few of these are our sponsors for the show that have events coming up here in the next couple of weeks. And last but not least, there will be a karting swap meet at Prairie City on June 26th. So karting swap meet June 26th at Prairie City. Thank you all for tuning in. If you like what we're doing, consider sharing or liking and subscribing to either YouTube or on Facebook. And again, share it with your friends. And just remember, if we all get one person in a karting, we'll double by next year.